Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to see all of you here. And a special welcome, of course, to our guests of honor from the METS and UgandaEMR team. Samuel Lubwama, do we have quorum? Are we ready to get started? I think you just muted if you were about to say something.
I think I'm unmuted right now. Yeah, so
there you go.
Let me just check on the numbers. Yeah, it looks like pretty much we are right there. Jonathan might not be joining. Our team lead is not doing well today. So yeah, but I believe from the Ugandan team, yes, we do have quorum, and we can kickstart.
Awesome. Well, on that note, let's kick things off. So welcome so much, everyone. We're really excited to have Samuel Lubwama and his team here today. I'm going to hand things over to you, Samuel, to introduce yourself and your team and provide a bit of context. We were really thrilled to be able to have Dennis working with you a couple weeks ago in Uganda on this effort. And we're really keen to learn more about how you're leveraging O3, what's been working well, what we could improve together as a community. Over to you, Samuel, and welcome again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Grace, and welcome everybody to our demo, to our showcase. Along with me, we have the project lead on this project of O3, Musa Mwanje. He will introduce himself since he's going to even be giving a lot of this demo. Then we do have others. If at all in my team, please just unmute quickly and then introduce yourself. I see Derek, I see Jabba, I see Solomon. Sometimes I usually am mistaken Payasan. I'm like Payasan, Jonathan. Somehow we work on different teams yet actually in the same building sometimes. Yeah, but please introduce yourself as long as you're in my team, as long as, yeah. Derek, go.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone. I'm called Derek Baluko, so Fedvo Partners.
Okay, thank you. Akileng?
Hello, everyone. Isaac Aklen, software developer at MET.
Okay. Jabba?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jabba Jeremy, software developer with MET.
Okay, Kasule?
Hello everyone, I greet you all. I'm Joseph Kasule. I've been assisting with bid management module.
Okay. Let me see. Solomon Sevume? Solomon, are you there? Just so you're on the call. Okay, I might be engaged into something else. Okay, cool. Who did I miss out? Daphne?
Hi everyone, and good evening, good morning. My name is Daphne Nalule. I'm a volunteer at Meta Software Developer.
Okay. Who did I miss out? Do we have Diana on the call? I don't see Diana. No, Diana is not on the call. Do I have David Semuju? No, I also don't have David. Okay, so at this moment, I'm going to hand over to Musa to take us through the demo, and then I will come back with the challenges so far that we are facing and the things that we need to see expedited within the community sometimes we feel it's a little bit slow, but we need a little bit faster. So sometimes we need to collaborate better so that we can speed up things. Yeah, so Musa, take us away.
Good morning, good evening. I'm Mwanje Musa, a software developer at METS. I'm going to be taking you through UgandaEMR Plus. Confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Looks beautiful.
Yeah, great. So this is UgandaEMR Plus. It is a product built on top of O3. So right away, I'm going to sorry about that. Are you people seeing my screen?
Yes, we're seeing the UgandaEMR Plus login screen.
Okay. So UgandaEMR Plus is a point of care system whereby different service point within a typical facility using this system, right from reception, triage, clinician, ward, etc. So I'm going to take you through right away when a client or a patient comes into a hospital, what happens and what happens at the reception. So I'm going to log in as a reception. So this is a reception at OPD. So when you log in as a reception at OPD, so this is what you see. What he does, he can register clients, check in clients, and then push them to the next service point. So I'm going to talk about maybe the features what we added onto, because when you a client, you need to be registered into the system. So on the registration page, we added the feature for client registry. I would like to acknowledge our brothers from Kenya, the Kenyan EMR. So we modified this to be able to use FHIR and connect it to the national registry. So here, when a patient comes in, automatically we search for an identifier for the client. But apparently right now, our server, the national registry server, is under maintenance. So I'm not going to be able to show how that works. So, but this is the feature we added on the registration page. So the rest looks similar, pretty like OpenMRS. So when the client is registered, of course, now he's in the system. So at the reception, we check in the client. Let me search for Winnie. So we select the level of the priority level, maybe 2. Then we put some notes. And then now here I'm sending this client to the next service point. So which is now the triage. And then I start the visit. So when you start a visit, the patient will be listed in the table. As you can see down here, we have Winnie. So what we can do, we can print out the patient receipt. So which looks like this. And then we can also be able to view like those patients who are in the waiting queue, and also know the patients who are being served. That is the receptionist. So I'm going to log out and then log in as a triage attendant. So when you log in as triage, so at triage, you're able to see patients who are sent in at your point. So at triage, we normally capture vitals. So what you do, you pick a patient. Now, for example, in here, currently I've picked Winnie, but apparently I was serving Stella. So I'm going to move Stella to the next service point now. I'm going to move Stella to the OPD clinician, and then I attend to Winnie. So the moment I click move patient, so now I've moved Stella, and now I'm accessing Winnie's patient summary. And what the triage attendant is doing here is going to capture vitals. So here we can see the vitals page. Of course, this is in OpenMRS, and how we capture vital, this is also captured in OpenMRS. So I'm going to log out because that is the function of a triage attendant, and then log in as a OPD clinician. So in OPD clinic, so you're able to see patients who are sent to you. So we demonstrated that, like, we sent Stella to the OPD clinic, and you can see the waiting time here. So Stella is 0 minutes. So what the clinician now does, he clicks on the bell to pick a patient. So when you pick a patient, it takes you direct to the patient summary, where you can now do most of the functions related to the patient. For example, if I want to screen the patient, I can access the screening form via the clinical form tab. So here you can open a lab. Let's say I'm sending the patient to lab. So this is where we access the request lab form. You select the level of urgency, you put some notes. And then now here you can now select like orders.
Very key that will help us to face.
So after that, you can now save. And now the patient record is now sent to investigation. So the rest, for example, allergies, condition, attachments, those are the same things as O3 is providing. So you can as well access the request via here by clicking on the tab. It will open this. And then here you can search for the test, for example, malaria RDT, and then you can do a save. So that request now is sent to the lab. So the clinician, under the forms here we've added, we have these are some of the forms: clinical form, we have the TB forms, the comprehensive referral, and we are still adding in more tools for the different clinics in the facility. So I'm going to log out, maybe demonstrate now the IPD. So now the patient, maybe we send the patient to IPD. So how the IPD works. So we've tried to add a navigation menu, which looks like this. So here you can be able to, for example, search for the different application you are looking for. Let's say dispensing, the different apps, we are hoping to add them right from this navigation menu. So I'm going to demonstrate IPD. Let me just log out and then log in as Word. So when you log in as Word, now under IPD, so we have inpatient here. You can see there is a Stella we sent in from the OPD clinic. So here what we can do, we can like assign a bed. So if I'm assigning a bed for this ward, so okay. So here, this word, the user have logged in is a PID word. Due to the settings, I mispressed, but this is how the word looks like. So the color under the beds you're seeing in green. So green means occupied, and then white, those are the beds which are available. So if I want to assign a bed to Stella, so I can just choose any of these white beds. So I've clicked on GWW12. So if I click save, that means I've assigned that bed to Stella, and now Stella moves from the admitted list, moves from the queue list, and then now goes to the admitted list. As you can see, you can be able to see Stella from here. So under here, the actions you can do, you can either transfer, Stella, maybe to the next word. Let's say this was IPD. So up here I can search maybe to general women ward, and then I see the beds which are available in there, and I can transfer Stella to that ward. So the next thing to demonstrate, I'm going to demonstrate stock management. So for stock management, this is actually we are actually managing like the facility stock that is under pharmacy and the main store. So to do this, when you go to the menu, you can access stock management. So this is a feature we've added. We added this feature in our 2.x. So we tried to bring it this side. So we have a tab for items where we add items, for example, the drugs. So when you click on new, so this is where we add items from. So you specify the item type, and then you search for a drug you want to capture. You can give it a common name, abbreviation if there is any. Then this is, does the item expire? So if you say yes, then you need to tell us the expiration in notice in days. Maybe notify me in 30 days. Then you can click the vendor. So those are where the medicine is coming from. And then the category, if it is drug. And then you have to specify the unit, the dispensing unit, whether you are dispensing in a box, whether you are dispensing per each tab, or it is a kit. So this is where you do that from. So when you save the record, you'll be able to see the records in the list here. The next thing is the under the operation. So under operations here, this is where we find operations for the facility. For example, if I needed to open a new stock, or I'm requesting, so you'll be able to find them there. And then we have a tab for user roles. So this is just managing the users who will be handling the pharmacy. And then this is where we add stock. And then these are some of the locations. For example, the locations for within the facility, we have different locations where we are dispensing drugs from and picking drugs from. So this is where we capture them from. So maybe some will talk about this, what is missing here. We need to be able to integrate this with the dispensing form which is there, such that when a clinician dispenses drug, it automatically like being reducted from the stock or the pharmacy. The next item to present is about data visualization. So maybe at this point, I'm going to ask Isaac Akleng to share a screen and take us through a brief presentation about the data visualizer.
Thank you, Musa. Let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
All right. So we did add the data visualizer. The data visualizer provides simply more functionality than just generating reports. Gives the users a much more better view on how they can look at their reports and how they can do the analysis. So building on top of the reports that we actually do have in our 2x, what we call the 3x side, we did add the data visualizer. Here we did specify that if a user is to generate a report from the visualizer, we have two types of reports. We have what we call the fixed report and what we call the dynamic reports. So the difference is that the fixed report comes with already defined indicators for that particular report, whereas for the dynamic report, we give the user the ability to define what indicators they want to appear in a particular report. So if we go ahead and try to generate one of the reports, let's say we've selected a fixed report and it's an appointment report. I'm just going to pick a month here. Let's say we pick a month of August, and then we want to see the appointments that were in August. So we select our start and end date. We select either we want a patient list, and then we do update our report. So once your data has loaded, you can be able to see, rather than just download and then see the CSV, you can actually preview it before you actually download. Still, we provide the functionality for the user to be able to download the CSV, and then to make this much better in terms of visualization, we introduce what we call the pivot tables. So when we slide over to the pivot table, here we added the functionality for users to be able to visualize their data, not just in tabular format, but in different formats. Let's say I want to know the different type of, regimens that might be needed for a specific appointment. So I can select a few items here and then choose probably how I want to represent this. Okay. So if I have something like this, so this gives me a much better visual, or a visual that I would love to have rather than just having a table. And then also, once you have generated this, you're able to actually come here and save your report. Okay. Then if I just go back here, and then like I said, the other type of report that we have is the dynamic report. Now the difference with this is that if you have, let's say, an appointment list, you can be able to like select the indicators that you want. Let's say I'm only interested in the HIV number, maybe an OPD number for the identifiers, and then for the person's attributes, I'm interested probably in their marital status, maybe nationality, and let's say we pick their occupation. So I am defining the attributes or the indicators that I actually want to appear on my appointment report, rather than bringing a whole bunch of already defined attributes. So the same thing happens. After that, you can select your period, relative or fixed. You select your dates, and then you go ahead and update or load your report. So that is what we added for the data visualizer. And then we also added what we call our user dashboard. Now, once you have saved the report or from the data visualizer here, we've given the user the ability to be able to add those visualization or those reports onto their dashboards, so that the next time they actually log in, they do find that report or that dashboard when they log in. So let's say I did have a report that I had saved here. So the user can actually come here and specify or save this as their dashboard. So once they save this gets loaded onto their user dashboard, and once they log out and log in next time, they still find this in their logins. So in a nutshell, that is what we have so far for the data visualizer, and then for our user dashboard. Over to you, Musa.
Thank you, Isaac. Maybe at this point, I'm going to now take it over to Sam and take us through the needs and whatsoever we want from OpenMRS. Over to you, Sam.
Okay, thank you, Musa. Thank you, Isaac, for building for demoing this. Whatever you've been able to see has been greatly developed through different approaches. Contributions from OpenMRS, thanks that they sent us Dennis, and Dennis was really a key and significant person in making sure that we are aligning to OpenMRS. And one of our greatest thing is to make sure that we give all this back to the community. We are not staying with any single thing. We are giving it all away. So, though along, also I would like to recognize Kasule and Daphne. They are not full METS employees. There is another lady called Diana. She's also not a full METS employee, but they are greatly contributing to this. And they have really put in a lot of time and making sure that they are building functionality to make it happen. We, however, have had a number of challenges while we are building this. One, I'm going to start off with the form builder. If at all you noticed that there's one form builder, which is the current React form builder, but however, there are two form renderers. There is the AMPath form renderer, but also there is the React form renderer that is currently Ori is building. Both of these renderers have great functionality. There are some functionality which we would like to keep in one, and also there is some functionality which we would like to keep in the other, but we cannot use two renderers at the same time, because when the forms are being rendered to the clinicians who actually have to work with them, they have to work with one. We cannot tell them, render this, render that. I'll give a context. The form renderer that is currently the React form renderer does have great functionality when it comes to post-form submission, where you can add in extra behavior on how, when your form submits, what should happen. And that helps us to queue patients while you are in a form to any other location. Let's say you want to send a patient to a ward. You have to use the admission form, and then maybe specify where you need them to go. And this post-form submission public would be able to take over that and add it to the queue and then send that. Great. That the Ori form engine does so well. But when it comes to the AMPath form renderer, it doesn't have that functionality. Let's now take a look at an example of what great functionality the AMPath form builder has. Within the AMPath form builder, already there is functionality where you can easily order, let's say to lab, make lab orders and all that. But as you're making orders to lab, you cannot add a post-form submission for you to be able actually to send the patient to the lab queue. So that's a problem in itself. You have been able to make the orders, but for some reason you do not have the patient going to the queue where you actually have the patient into the lab queue. So hence breaking up the workflows. So we need, as UgandaEMR, our ask to the community is that we need to try to work towards making sure that we have one form renderer, getting the strength of one and putting into the other, and making sure that we actually have one form renderer. That's one of the challenges we have. The other challenge that we are currently grappling with is the need to connect stock management to the dispensing. This is a very, very key aspect when it comes to stock management. We have built a stock management module. Speaking of the stock management module, it has both the front end and back end, all of them independent of any modules. The stock management module backend does not even reference any other module apart from the OpenMRS core. The front end also is independent. That means anyone else can take it over and use it the way how it is. However, we would like to introduce the dispensing approach and the reduction of stock. So we would like to call upon the people who actually are working on the dispensing section to join us, and then we work hand in hand in making sure that we provide both stock management and dispensing at the same time, where we are reducing stocks so that we are offering a better EMR. The other challenge that I would like to raise and put forward, which we have been able to see within the community, is the ability to be able to keep on duplicating efforts, where you find out there is a great app here, this app does so well, and then we end up building something else to similarly duplicate it. So we need to find ways of making sure that we are harmonizing as a community, and we are all not letting 1,000 flowers bloom. But because I don't think if at all this entire community collectively, you combine it, we do not have that kind of bandwidth to let 1,000 flowers bloom. We need to make sure that we work together and ensure that we are building better and more efficient. So one more last thing that I would like to mention. You saw patient queues, and I know you're going to have questions about patient queues, and you're like, oh, how come it doesn't look like service queues? Well, unfortunately, we felt that the patient queues, the service queues that were being built on the backend that was built was not serving the purpose of service queues, because it was not being incorporated so well within how locations are being utilized. Remember that when it comes to managing where a patient receives services, you actually base on locations to be able to put a patient wherever you want. But we were like, I think it's much better that actually we leverage on the OpenMRS's functionality to build a location-based queue where you are moving patients from one place to another. That's why we have been able to easily incorporate moving a patient from the OPD section straight into the IPD. Remember that the IPD module is independent of the entire OPD. When we looked at the bed management module, credit to the BAMNI team that built a really brilliant BAMNI bed management module that has great APIs. We were able to see that actually it fits so well into the location management aspect. And also beds were tagged to locations and others. So like, okay, we can move a patient to this location and then now move them into the bed where this location is located. So that was really a great approach. And we're like, but when it comes to service queues, we are going to have a little bit of a problem moving that kind of trend. So we're like, what should we be able to do? So we're like, okay, let's try to first of all use our backend and see whether it flows in so well. And we've been able to find it to work so well. So we are coming back again to the community for advice. What should we be able to do in this context? There is service queue that is being shipped, and also UgandaEMR has come up with a patient queue module. But what we did was just simply look at what service queue has, borrow it, modify it to fit the backend that we're actually riding on already. So what should we be able to do? So we are coming back again to the community to brainstorm with you guys on how should we move forward. Should we continue this way, or should we improve service queues to work this way? So I would like to stop here and then carry on. But before I end, I would like to invite our team lead, thankfully has been able to join, Jonathan, to say a word, one or two, before we can open it up for the discussion.
Sam, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Jonathan.
Yes, all right, thank you. So Good morning and good afternoon to OpenMRS community. This is Jonathan Impango, and I lead the UgandaEMR development work here at METS. I'm just super excited, and to me, I always tell people that O3 is just a game changer. To me, this is the OpenMRS I've been dreaming to see in the past 10 to 12 years to come, where we allow innovations to come in and where we work hand in hand with one another to ensure that we make OpenMRS be the EMR we are all proud of to use. So a special thanks to OpenMRS for always being available to support the Ugandan team and other distributions of OpenMRS. And I'm just excited that even this is happening. I knew it would come, and I'm glad that the team is presenting. And we're open to feedback on how we can move forward. Over. Let the discussions go on.
Okay, so we've opened it up for discussions. In case you have any questions, kindly shoot.
Hey, Samuel. Thanks for the great presentation. I have a question about role-based access, how you're leveraging role-based access in UgandaEMR Plus. Could you give us a brief explain on how you're doing that?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So how are we leveraging, how do we get to achieve all these workflow approach? When it comes to role-based access, we are leveraging or need to be able to just simply limit on what someone has the capability to do. That's what we are using it for. So we have apps where actually we restrict on what actually you have the ability to see. Every single app that we have actually is tagged to a particular privilege. And then that privilege, we assign it to a role. And then that role, we assign it to a user. So that way, if at all you don't have that role that has that particular privilege, then you cannot access a specific functionality because that's not meant for you, because that's meant for another person. But then you must have noticed also that we have a single login. It does not have locations attached to it. And yet, in the background, you must have noticed that Musa was still being restricted to locations. How do we handle both of those? When it comes to locations, we are leveraging on the opportunity that we can assign a user a default location. That means that that user is restricted to work within that domain of that location, or let's say if at all they are tied, maybe let's say to the TB clinic and to a particular service point within TB clinic. So we end up telling them this is the service point which you're working at, which is actually a location. And then we ask ourselves a question. What is the parent of the current location which this guy is working at? And then we ask ourselves another question. Who are the children? Who are all the children of this current, of the parent location of this current user? So that way we get to expose only those locations, and also we get to also expose locations which are only services. Let's say lab, pharmacy, those are general to everyone else. So we also get to expose those. So we get to offer a flexibility into a queuing based on location, but also exposing only enough to the user so that the user is not overwhelmed by the entire facility. So that way we get to manage a few things here and there. We combine both roles, privileges, and assigning a location to a person so that we can manage what you have seen as workflows. Yeah. Any other question? Okay. Any other questions?
There are people with their hands raised.
Charlie, go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks, the Uganda team. I think this is exciting. I was trying to type something and I think it was a lot, but this is the way to go. I think point of care EMR implementation is the way to go, and I'm pretty excited for you guys. I just have maybe two questions or maybe comments. You've talked that you've integrated with the client registry. One thing which I wanted to know is the EMR, is it designed for on-premise or cloud implementation? This is also point of care. And if it's on-premise, the connection to client registry, how have you designed it? If the connection breaks down or the connectivity breaks down, do you have predefined unique identifiers for that site to assign, or how does the unique ID assignment done? That's number one question. Number two, maybe it's a comment on the OPD consultation. I'm very excited the way you've designed that workflow where you're pushing clients to clinicians. But when they're at the clinical point, maybe a comment to attract the clinician work, because now this is a clinician interfacing with the patient in real time. Apart from the administrative work of sending an order to the lab and you have those forms, do you have the clinical guidelines embedded, like the questions which the clinicians would ask? Because when a patient comes, there are systematic questions which the clinician asks the patient for maybe historical background, the complaints, and the systematic review. I think there's a digest of guidelines the clinicians has to follow to actually probe that patient. I don't know whether those workflows are already embedded. I think that would be more attractive to the clinicians, because they are being guided as they are providing care. I think that's what I can comment over.
Yeah, thank you so much. So when it comes to clinical guidelines, you must have noticed that there are a bunch of forms. We did not go through them because of time. We are trying to be so cognizant of time, but the clinician actually can do more beyond just simply making orders and all that. And they can actually can do all the clinical assessments, can do a number of things basing on the forms that are available for them. And we are leveraging on the forms that are automated and set for the clinician. And also, the other thing is making sure that the questions that actually, the forms that actually recommended to the clinician to use while working with this patient. So ideally, that can actually happen. And we are continuously making sure that we are building the forms to the Ugandan context, especially those ones that are specific to Uganda. And those are the only things that actually we are going to keep Ugandan, everything else back to the community, because we believe that that is general functionality which everybody can actually leverage on. Over. I hope I answered that. So any other question?
Yes,
I
have a
Juliet.
question. Yeah, I have a question. I must recommend this is good work, and I'm so happy at least you have incorporated ladies in your team. Yeah, my question goes to the opening remark of Musa. Musa, when you are sharing that registration form, one thing that I liked is you incorporated Kenya EMR. Now my question goes, how do you handle other East Africa communities? Much less knowing that you always have referrals from these countries. I want to assume you have customized your contact details. How do you manage it? Because I've seen something on data visualization whereby you capture and you try to specify the nationality. Is it also incorporated into your contact details? Number two, he also talked about bed transfer. I really like it because it helps, like, should I say, optimize when one is looking for a bed. But my question goes, when you are transferring a patient to another location, does it also have the doctor's note that, or rather report that is moving along on the bed, or it is just a bed? Yeah.
Musa, respond to that one question from Julie. And then we shall have Kasule respond to the bed management question.
Thank you, Juliet. About the client registry, right now we are working around the Ugandan context. So if at all there is any client maybe who moves in, let's say from Kenya, and we know the identifier, and if at all we can search it and pull down his demographic information, then we don't need to retype that. We just use the information we've got and then proceed to give care to this client in UgandaEMR. Thank you. Over to Kasule.
Yeah, when we're making a bed transfer, or when we're transferring a patient from one bed to another, or to a different location, at the moment we're not supplying the doctor's note, but it's something that we are incorporating. So yeah, in future releases, that will be an option as well. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay, just before we get to the other questions, there was something that was raised about the offline capable. What happens if at all offline? What if client registry is off, or what if the facility is off? What we do in that context is that we go ahead and register the patient. And if at all we register the patient, we have background tasks that actually go ahead and later push the patient to the client registry. The client registry will assign that patient an identifier as expected, and then then the EMR and will give a response to the EMR. And when it gives it a response, we take care of that identifier and add it as part of the patient identifiers. So that way we have identifiers globally, both the identifier of the patient which is known into the client registry, at the same time also the identifier that is known locally. So that's how we actually currently handling it. I see Kigen also talking about the whole aspect of cross-border. Maybe I would like to give an opportunity to Solomon to speak into cross-border and the work that is currently being done between, again, Kenya and Uganda. But let's first have other questions, and then maybe we shall have Solomon come in later. Over.
Doc, do you want to go next?
You were calling on someone else. So I just want to congratulate the Ugandan team and say awesome work, and thank you not only for doing such great work, but also reaching out and sharing and striving to share all this with the community. It's we need and benefit from folks setting that example. And as you, I think, realize, the challenge is always walking fast alone or walking further but slower together. And I think we've seen, and our success in over the years has been through leveraging modularity try to allow people to customize to meet local needs and meet them quickly, but then focus our efforts on where at the core and over time can we build modules that serve many that we don't have to be, as you mentioned, Sam, the 1,000 flowers bloom. And so I think the sweet spot is somewhere in the combination of giving people the opportunity for flowers to bloom, to meet their immediate needs, but then to focus as a community on building up the shared resources and those parts that can work together, and where customization is needed less and less. And historically, we started having that in the beginning, but with OpenMRS 2 and as Angular and React started to take off, front ends started to diverge, and so it was so difficult to create something when everybody had a different front end. It was so difficult to create things people could share. Now seeing this kind of movement forward in an OpenMRS 3 framework, it's so exciting to see. And I agree, this is the OpenMRS we've dreamed of where we can start to create these functions that work not only in one implementation or one location, but it can be used across many and across countries. And it's going to be hard work to make that happen, but I think it's worth doing. That doesn't come just from making something great and then sharing it with people. That's obviously a requirement in terms of we have to be willing to share, but there's also the hard work of figuring out how do we, as we're facing now, for example, with queues, how do we get these things such that they're robust and reliable enough that we can all count on them. And that will take that takes working together and discussing but having these use cases and the specific issues you're running against will help us get there. So there's conversations happening in talk. I know there's a call planned, I think tomorrow, to talk about queue services and trying to get to, can we have a shared module for queues? There's this, what's being shared today is a great example of how amazing things can be done when we all build off each other's work. And I think coming together and finding ways, can we over time share more and more of these solutions, I think is the path forward. But we really need to lean on the modularity, because if we didn't have modular and customizability, it's impossible for folks to meet their immediate demands and customize the application, as we've seen where parts have been done here in the UgandaEMR. So we also, I would just lastly add that we're also trying to be more deliberate and try to bring back some momentum with the platform team to get some of the functions that need to go into core. Daniel is leading a platform team calls. The time has been moved a little earlier on Wednesdays. That's in the OpenMRS calendar. And I think we'll be working through what are those pieces that on the back end we need to be building out to support such great work like this. So I see the beginning of some great momentum here, and I'm excited for what's going to happen with OpenMRS in 2024. So thank you so much for sharing, and I'll stop talking now.
Okay, thank you back. Over to you, Musa. I guess, I don't think we see any other hands on that. So I would like hand it back to Musa. And then I think Grace, see Grace's hands.
Yeah, and then I'll head up to Musa. I just wanted to follow up by saying one of the things we are trying to enable as the global product support team is we can't build all features, but we certainly want to support people in, say, feature squads, the O3 squad, etc., in making sure that the O3 reference application EMR product has 80% of the features you would expect to need as an implementer. And so some of the work that's being demoed today is certainly stuff we're missing in the O3 reference application, that would be great to look at, to add. However, I did want to say, to expand upon Dirk's comment, we do expect that, similar to FHIR, which also has an 80-20 rule, we do expect that around 20% of the time, implementers will need to build their own stuff on top of that shared product. And so we don't want folks to feel discouraged or totally turned away from that. But certainly we do want to listen to the feedback about, hey, this really needs to be included in the 80% that we need. So a quick question for Musa and Samuel and team. It sounds like Q's module, hear you loud and clear, that's a big need for the 80%. What other things would you say are the top priority that you would want to see evaluated and maybe worked on together in the community for adoption into the reference application based on your work so far?
One of them, we mentioned them, the form engine, the rendering of the form engine. That's so top of the priority. There are two great form engines. They're two great form renderers, one from AMPATH, one from ORI. We need to find the community approach to that. What's the community approach? We need to have one. So yeah, so we need to have that really sorted, because we find it not okay. The other thing that we would like to do, you must have noticed that when it came to the registration, we customized that to make sure that actually we get the functionality of the registration, the search capability. And I believe also it was the same thing with the Kenya team. How do we add more extensions into such places that can, instead of me building a full-blown registration app or forking and making modification, how do I actually just simply plug in the extra thing that I need and it just automatically happens? So sometimes you find apps that actually you need to just simply plug in something and without totally changing how it works or forking it. So we need to build more flexibility into extending apps other than just simply forking it. So we find some rigidness, and then sometimes we find some flexibility. So we need to see more of the configurability, more that you can extend a thing, especially the things that are known as common goods to everyone.
Yes. That's really well received.
Maybe lastly, lastly is about the integration of the dispensing form with the stock management, because while dispensing, the clinician really needs to know what is in stock before dispensing this. So if at all we can have that, it will be pretty good. Over to you, Grace.
Thank you so much. And that's really helpful. And certainly everything that you've just shared resonates with what we're hearing from others as well. We have a global product support team monthly check-in immediately after this. So we'll be sure to talk about how we can support with next steps. Jonathan Mpango asked a wonderful question in the chat, which was, what about an app store? So sort of behind the scenes, that's something we've been looking at a lot, actually, is how we could support implementations to share their work through an experience like an app store. And we looked at a couple of options, both building our own app store website, redoing or building on the existing OpenMRS add-ons website. But for now, what we're going to try or experiment a bit with, this October, we are migrating our OpenMRS Confluence and Jira into the more modern version, the cloud-hosted version. And the reason that that's important is that it for two reasons. Number one, it gives us an opportunity to clean up our documentation, but the bigger thing in terms of an app store is that by having the more modern version of Confluence, it gives us access to all of the add-ons and plugins that the Atlassian store has to offer. So we're going to try to experiment with what it might possibly look like to have something like an O3 App Store hosted through the wiki, so that we don't have to maintain another technology to host that. But certainly more, still early days there. Well, that's all from me. Back to you, Musa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace, and thanks to everyone who has given in some time to see this demo. I would like to appreciate the METS team, Dennis, and also whoever has been of great importance in putting up this together. I don't have much to say. This call was specifically for demoing what we had or what we have as UgandaEMR team. So at this point, let me take it back to Dennis. Yeah, and then we shall be hearing about the way forwards later. Thank you. Over to you, Dennis.
Sure, Musa. And just to reiterate that this is a group effort. Thanks to everyone involved. And hopefully this sets the benchmark for how we move things forward in the future, where we work together to move along further. Nothing more to add at this time, and I think we're over time by a couple of minutes. Just to thank everyone again for joining this meeting. I hope you saw something that you're interested in and you're interested in working to move forward, and just to wish you all the best for the future. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye and thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Bravo. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Bravo and brava.
Kudos.